Well, the number of computer viruses, worms and trojans in circulation globally has topped the 1 million mark at the end of last year. Experts say that the viruses are spreading at a quicker rate than the speed at which antivirus patches can be distributed. For business, the fears of an attack in whatever form is of deep concern, and one which can lead to a nightmare of even having their network hijacked. Most companies have virus protection in place, but is that enough in this high-tech age and huge reliance now on the internet? Well, with us today on Inside Business, we have Rick Ferguson, who is a senior risk analyst at Trend Micro, who we link up with via video phone from London in England. Well, Rick, thanks a lot for coming on the programme. I mentioned in the introduction there 1 million different threats to computers flying around cyberspace at the moment. Is this accurate, and how serious are the threats, particularly for business?
In fact, that actually seriously underestimates the nature of the threat. Over the course of 2008, we saw over 6 million new malware binaries created, just over the course of that 12 months alone. And to put that into a bit of perspective, if we look 20 years back, when Trend Micro started out in 1988, we saw only 1,738 new viruses created during that year, that 12-month period. 10 years later, in 1998, we saw just over 177,000. And then obviously 10 years further down the line, as I said, we're talking about 6 million new malware binaries created over the course of that year. The reason for this really is that the motivation behind malware has changed. So it's moved from being one of trying to infect as many PCs as possible in the shortest possible time period, just for causing damage or for some kind of hacker glory, really to moving to one of stealing personal information or sensitive information and staying installed for as long as possible.
Now, put simply, are businesses seriously at risk?
Yes, absolutely, and I can pick two very recent examples that illustrate that. One was in December of last year when we saw the zero-day exploit against Internet Explorer. So that was kind of living proof that the underground market in vulnerabilities is alive and well and going very, very strong. So a zero-day vulnerability, what that means is that the exploit was released before there was a patch available to fix it. So we saw in December that anybody using any version of Internet Explorer on any version of Windows, any currently supported version of Windows, was vulnerable to infection simply by visiting a website that had the attack code on it. Number two is the massive growth that we've seen in the virus, which is variously known as Conficker or Downadup. And we're hearing that that's infected literally millions of machines. And that's really only been since November of last year and really ramped up over the course of January this year.
How can we make personal and confidential data more secure, especially emails and bank details?
When you send an email at the moment, the technology that most email clients use, the email is sent in clear text, which is really akin to writing all of your sensitive information on the back of a postcard and hoping that nobody reads it. If it's in transit and it's in clear text, then obviously it can be read anywhere on its journey. So to solve that kind of problem, encryption is the number one technology. Obviously there are solutions out there for business, but if you want to encrypt your personal email, certainly Trend Micro's email encryption client will do that, and I know that there are other clients, OpenPGP and GNU PG, that will do similar things. So encrypting your email is number one if you want to keep that stuff to yourself. But also in terms of banking details, I know that that's a big worry for people. And really the banks are involved in escalating technology. And in fact, I have right here an example of the technology. I'm covering up my bank name, but an example of the technology being deployed by banks. So this is a card reader. I can put my bank card in here and it will generate a one-time code to allow me to log on to my banking website.
Now, Rick, what simple preventative measures can we take, and employees in companies, to reduce the risk of a cyber attack?
I think the first one, and this again is really amply illustrated by Downadup Conficker, is to make sure that machines are patched as soon as possible, and this goes for enterprises and home users. The number one, make sure you patch as soon as you possibly can. Number two, make sure you use complex passwords, strong passwords, and I would say also, certainly for home users and probably for businesses as well, if you use several different services, try to use a different password for each of those services, and I mean a minimum of 3. So on a personal level, I'll definitely use, for example, a completely different password for my online banking than I would use for any social networks that I take part in.
How can we find out if someone either has access to our network or if a virus has infiltrated the computer?
Well, the goal of cybercriminals really is to stay installed for as long as possible. So you'll find that they don't exhibit really visible symptoms because they're too busy in the background just recording every keystroke you make or taking snapshots of your screen and sending it back to the cybercriminals. So what we need to focus on to detect this kind of infection is more listening to things like the network traffic within your organization, within your enterprise. So we listen to network traffic and we can make a very clear picture of either phone home activity or outbreak activity within a network as a virus tries to propagate. So it's very important to keep a close eye on that traffic.
Is off-the-shelf commercially available virus scanning software any good?
In 2008 we were seeing in Trend Labs about 800 samples every hour to work on, to develop signatures for. And then of course we have to make those signatures available. You, the customer, have to download them. You have to deploy them across your estate. And if we're seeing 800 every hour, if we take the current rate of growth and look forwards, by 2015 we could expect to see 26,500 samples every hour. So I think you can see that trying to write signatures and deploy them and have you download them and deploy them across your enterprise, that's not a workable solution going forwards. So what we've chosen to do with the Smart Protection Network is move our signature database out into the cloud, and we then offer it as a real-time queryable database. So the only thing that we have to keep up to date is our central service, and all of our customers will query that on an ongoing basis, which gives them access to real-time, always up-to-date, always-on dynamic protection.
Well, Rick Ferguson, via video phone from London, many thanks for your time today.
You're welcome, Greg. Thanks very much.
Well, that's it for this edition of Inside Business. With us on the programme tomorrow will be Tim Searle from GlobalEye, talking to us on the impact of job losses during the current financial crisis. You can send your questions to the programme directly by writing to us at ib@city7tv.com. For now, though, from all of us on the business desk, goodbye and thanks for watching.